Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Omni review number 3. I have two sword related things to review today. First on the block is this, the Leon Paul FIE Exchange Mask. Now, what is this, you say? Of course, it's a fencing mask. Specifically, this is the type of mask used for epi, or epee, whatever. As you can see here, by this non-conductive bib. Now, what makes this super cool, aside from just being Leon Paul Gucci material? Well, there are several things, several features. Number one is a replaceable rubber band right here. You'd have to, I've never had to replace one of these, but you could if you want to, if it gets cut and worn through. Now, the biggest feature is this, the exchange system. This is the Comfort Fit band, I believe. This entire assembly, I don't want to take it apart because it took me a long time to fit this properly, has Velcro attachments at 3 points that go inside the mask. You can't really see it, I'm doing a terrible job. But anyway, there are 2 riveted loops. Strap comes here for back of the head, and this attaches to the top where the tongue on a normal fencing mask would be, the normal metal tongue. This cup right here engages to the back of your head and allows it to conform more easily to your head shape versus a tongue, which is either going to stick out quite a bit or you're going to have to put in a second bend to fit your shape. Additionally, as you can see here, this gray foam that extends through the jaw up to the ears, as well as this forehead band. The suspension system is completely removable, washable. There are 3 offerings as far as their padding system goes in varying degrees of weight, breathability, antimicrobial features, and price. Standard, this is the Air Cool, the middle of the road one. And then there is also the black colored mesh. I have one on a different mask. Anyway, the differences between them is the moisture wicking, moisture absorption, smell absorption. This, in my opinion, feels better than the breathable mesh simply because it doesn't chew up my shit as much. I've got a big head, 7 3/4. It's difficult to find masks that fit me, and this one barely fits me. Not to knock on the quality, it's just simply the way it is. And of course, as you can see on Leon Paul's website, the frame can be pressed together to make it taller, narrower, or scrunch down to make it wider and shorter depending on your head. Just be careful that you don't break the welds. Additionally, with these masks, I can pull this off here. The bib can be removed or exchanged, as they say, especially if you have a total 3 weapon setup, or you simply want to wash your bib. It simply slides out of the track that you see here, at the bottom of the mask. And here you have your FIE 1200 Newton bib. As you can see here, there are little loops. For the retention system, that's basically just a magnetic strap that comes lower neck. I took it off. I never need to use it. Now, what is FIE? For those of you here that are watching and don't know what FIE, it's the International Federation of Fencing. They oversee rules, equipment standards, etc. And the FIE ratings are level 1 is 350 newtons of puncture resistance. Level 2, which is the international level for other competitions, is 800 newtons of puncture resistance. All that puncture resistance is, say for example, you're fencing, the blade breaks, How much force is it required to puncture through that garment and potentially wound your opponent? Now, of course, nobody wants that, so people oblige. Only problem is 800 Newton fabric is, of course, thicker. It's not as breathable, and it is definitely more expensive. So, just as a word of warning as well, though, higher Newton rating doesn't necessarily mean better crush resistance for those of you who do HEMA with heavier weapons and not Olympic 3 weapons. Now, let's move on to the next part of the review, is this thing called a overlay made by PBT. All that an overlay does is it fits over your mask like so and acts as a hood. This is a stopgap measure for HEMAists because this is not really a high impact protective device. You would need a special helmet for that. All that this does is gives you a padded leather or fake leather covering over the sides and top and back of your head to better protect it against heavier blows. Now, as you can see, not much in the way of crush protection. There's no hard plates in here like certain other overlays. And as some of you will probably recognize, this style of hood has been used by fencing coaches and masters during training. It's basically just a retrofitted instructor's or coach's hood. This particular model, elastic band around the chin. Now the biggest thing, especially for those of you who use weapons that bind and wind and blah, 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 back of the head protection, from the back of the head to the nape of the neck. And here is a flexible plastic protector and additional foam padding. Protects the back of your head. That's a significant part. I would call this the bare minimum for HEMA protection, simply just because it's not as heavy as the Spez, but it is lighter, provides more range of motion, and is easier to don and doff than some of the other offerings. PBT is one company offering this style of product. You can look at Ullman, which is a famous, or no, not Ullman, well, Ullman and All-Star are basically the same. All-Star Fencing in Germany makes a similar type of coach's overlay. You can also use that. Spez, I believe, makes one called the Vectier. Leon Paul also has their offering for these sorts of overlays as well. Personally, fencing masks are nice. They're time-tested and proven for classical and modern fencing. But when you're getting to weapons that are 750 grams to 1450, 1500 grams, this style of mask just isn't enough. You'd probably be better off looking at a specially designed heavy gauge mask like those used for Armored Combat League and or Armored Fighting League, SCA, Heavy Armored, etc. Protect your noggin. Don't cheap out. One thing to do note, one of the big selling points for Leon Paul's exchange mask is this. You see how deep the chin is and how far back the bib goes. The reason why they designed it like that was so it would sit further back, give you more range of motion. But for people that do HEMA and are required to wear heavier jackets and gorgets over it, this becomes a bit of a hindrance because it pushes your mask out. Sometimes during a bout, I wear a Destroyer Mods gorget and that thing is, you know, it's pretty substantial. I have to pull my mask down. So, live, learn, adapt, etc. Good masks, good overlay. I don't do longsword or competitive longsword. I focus on one-handed sword, and that style of mask is perfectly fine for me. Now, for today's second part of the review for HEMA is this. It is a Langus Mesa by Fabrio Morium over in the Czech Republic. It is a HEMA long knife simulator. Blade is about 29 inches long, handle, I can't remember, but it is a long style of handle. Those of you watching, obviously you would probably know what a longus messer is. One-handed weapon, single cutting edge, basically just it is a giant knife. So we'll go from the stern to the bow on sort of the features. We have a long pommel that has been, looks like brass brazed to the tang of the blade, with 2 riveted fasteners on this wooden handle, 2 slabs, very classy and traditional. This handle is long, not necessarily so you can use 2 hands, though I'm sure that you can, but supposedly in certain manuals, during the bind and winding, you can control with your left hand and also control the opponent's wrist and forearm with an extended handle. Here we have a very nice, looks to be one-piece crossguard with a nice substantial noggle. Now, this is kind of interesting. See, when you look at most long messers, you're looking at a clip point knife, basically, really long clip point. That is how they are. However, this model is specifically designed to be flexible and safe for sparring. So as you can see, great flexibility, and it's tapering, kind of like an arming sword. That's by design. This thing, if I'm thrusting with it, I don't feel like I'm gonna hurt someone. If you have a more traditional clip point style longus messer that's more of a blunt simulator, it's gonna hurt if you stab. And me, with the lessons that I've taken, I'm more inclined to try stabbing. So this blade is nice and thin, not too thin to take a set too early. That lends to its flexibility. As you can see here, nice single fuller on both sides, going about halfway down the bowl. And not much else to say. Nice and simple, just like a messer is in real life. I haven't sparred with it too much, but it's got, let's see here, great balance, about 1.5 inches from the guard. So good enough for cutting. A little bit difficult to get the momentum going, but that's the biggest thing, is this tool is very safe for sparring. So that is Fabri Armorium over in the Czech Republic. Check them out. They've got a very nice array catalog of different styled swords, both just stage swords, simulators, as well as purpose-driven HEMA weapons. So that concludes it for part 2 of the Omni review number 3. So thanks for joining me, and we will see you next time.